All right. Hi, Wayne. Will the meeting please come to order? We do have a quorum. Thank you all. Now we've got a slightly different setup this evening. The Board of Selectmen and some members of the Finance Committee are sitting in the front row.
The summer of
Okay, and where the Board of
2015 will see
Selectmen
many
normally
transitions
sits
in the
and
Auburn
where the
Public
Finance
Schools.
is where
The new
the
Auburn Middle School will
bylaw
open.
committee is sitting. So
The grades
you
3
may
through
see
5
them all.
students
They're
will
here.
merge together at the renovated 10
Recognize
Swanson
them.
Road facility to be
Okay.
renamed Swanson Road.
Let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm going to have, we've got, I don't know, I'm losing some kind. You better believe it. It's a lapel mic, don't ask. Okay, I need counters. Okay, so on this side here, I'd like to get Roger Bellumer and Ron Prouty. There's going to be a few counts tonight. In the middle, I'd like to get Norm Bergeron, you are there, right, and Paul Koski. And over on the left-hand side, Ellen Ethier and John O'Day. Would you please come forward to be sworn? Oh, thank you. I guess I put it in a different pocket, it's better. Okay. Thank you all. And I have noticed that, given the importance of this meeting, that our State Representative Paul Frost is here, as he quite often is this evening. Paul's up back. Okay, so, Article 1, to hear the report of the Finance Committee, other town offices and committees or act on anything relative thereto. Mr. Hassel, can you hear me without that? Ooh, scary.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Chief Lucas, can you hear me back there? Chief? That's not my height. Hello.
Oh, that's good.
Finance Committee report to special town meeting, March 24, 2015. Good evening. Thank you for your participation in the special town meeting, which has two primary goals. Number one, this completes the required votes to repurpose school CIP funds already appropriated to assist in replacing the roofs at Bremois School and 10 Swanson Road, as well as replace the boiler at 10 Swanson Road. The approval of these articles will also trigger an MSBA grant of $1.5 million, $1.7 million in additional funds to cover in excess of 50% of these project costs. The second primary goal of this meeting is to approve an update of the town bylaws which for the past 3 years have been under the review by the Bylaw Review Committee, resulting in the 159-page document before you tonight. As a resident, I would like to thank the Bylaw Committee for an incredibly thorough and tedious job in completing the update of the town's bylaws. Thank you. Regarding the warrant articles, the Finance Committee takes the following positions. Articles 2 through 7 recommend approval. I may have a couple of comments, I'll be very brief. Article 2 returns over $144,000 to the school department from free cash relating to circuit breaker reimbursements for special education costs received after fiscal 2014. Articles 3 through 6 finalize changes in the CIP to repurpose school capital funds as previously outlined, which will trigger a significant MSBA grant. Article 7 appropriates approximately $312,000 from available fund and reserve account due to the premium realized from the September 2014 bond issuance. Article 8, the Finance Committee defers to the petitioner, which is the DPW town engineer, the request to alter West Street as part of the new middle school project. Articles 9 and 10, which the Finance Committee recommends for approval, relates to the aforementioned revision of the town's bylaws. Article 11 proposes changes within the Auburn zoning bylaw relating to the composition and term of certain associate members of the ZBA, which the Finance Committee defers to the petitioner. Respectfully submitted, Kevin Hussey, Chairman Finance Committee, Dan Kavanaugh, Vice Chair, James Bonifilio, Ed Coleman, Kimberly Holstrom, Chris Haroyan, and Mallory O'Brien. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hussey. Ms. Goodrich? Make sure I shut this off.
Good evening, town meeting members. Doreen Goodrich, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Thank you all for being here tonight and potentially, hopefully you will all show.
Agenda item 1,
One of the items we were planning to do here was to replace the bathrooms. This is an area where we have completely reprioritized. The goal is always to put money back where it will directly impact children. The central office is the area where the superintendent's office and other members of the leadership team serve. It is the original bathrooms from the Randall School that are there, but we're happy to continue to use those, again, to save the 1.5 to 1.7. It always comes down to shifting priorities, the goal being students first, and then saving money whenever fiscally responsibly we can do so. As I noted, we have 90 days within which to seek this full authorization, which is for $3,024,153. MSBA will reimburse the 54.16, leaving 45.84% for the town of Auburn to be responsible. Important to note is if Articles 3, 4, and 5 are approved, which seek to repurpose previously approved CIP funds, no additional borrowing will be required to do these much-needed projects. And again, I respectfully request your approval of those. I indicated at the start of this that there is much going on in terms of building-wise in the Auburn Public Schools, certainly educationally as well, but certainly We're referring to the summer of 15 as the summer of transitions. The New Auburn Middle School will open in the fall, will be substantially complete on July 7th. And I thank town meeting members for your approval of that, as well as the community who very overwhelmingly in almost a 2-to-1 ratio supported this project. And you need only go around by the West Street area to see the magnificent progress that continues on that. Grades 3 to 5 will merge together at 10 Swanson Road, which has actually now officially been renamed Swanson Road Intermediate School. That name will take effect this summer. It will bring those two groups of students together, and we're very excited for that. The Mary D. Stone students and staff will transition to the Packagug School. And ultimately, the Julia Bancroft and Mary D. Stone schools, upon an official vote of the school committee, will be returned to the town as they'll no longer be needed for educational facilities. And that was as a result of work by the Auburn Master Plan team, led by Mr. Ray Bricard and 19 other community and school members. As you are aware, Town Manager Jacobson has started an elementary reuse advisory team, and that group is ongoing and meeting to determine what uses should come for Julia Bancroft and the Mary D. Stone School. But parallel to that, we have had a JB Mary D. closure team meeting, and the goal has been to really provide a respectful closing to two schools that have been much loved by the Auburn community for decades, one opening in 1927 and the other in 1928. So I'd like to thank the members of that team, Mr. Ron Prouty, Mr. Ken Ethier, Mrs. Beth Johnson, Mr. Rocco Morano, Dr. Kathleen Lozay, Mr. Joe Fahey, Mrs. Beth Chase, Mrs. Susan Lopez, and myself, Mary Ellen Brunel. What I'd like to share with you, with the permission of the town moderator, is a brief video that we have created that highlights the closing that we have prepared. It really speaks to one of the mottos that we have in the district of honoring tradition while embracing the future. So I thank you for your continued support, and I will start the video now. The Auburn Public Schools, honoring tradition while embracing the future. The summer of 2015 will see many transitions in the Auburn Public Schools. The new Auburn Middle School will open. The grades 3 through 5 students will merge together at the renovated 10 Swanson Road facility, to be renamed Swanson Road Intermediate School effective this summer, and the Mary D. Stone students will move to the Packagug School. As we plan for the eventual closure of the Julia Bancroft and Mary D. Stone schools, returning them to the town, a team has been meeting to ensure that a respectful farewell is provided to these two much-loved schools. What follows is a tribute video to both JB and Mary D., as they are affectionately known, including interviews with Mr. Cliff Granger, who decades ago attended the Mary D. Stone School, as well as Mrs. Ethel Murphy, who likewise decades ago attended the Julia Bancroft School. Each of these former students share precious memories of days gone by.
Ethel Murphy Talbot.
You went where?
I entered Julia Bancroft School in September of '35, the 6th grade. My teacher was Elsie Pearson. There were 2 6th grades, 2 7th grades, and 2 8th grades at that time. Well, Miss Elsie Pearson was my 6th grade, and the other 6th grade was Miss Howard. I don't know her first name. one of the main things at Judy Bancroft that we all enjoyed and that people never forget are the trips that Miss Ellen Tolman took us on. She was our geography teacher, and she took us to many, many places over the 2 years I was in the class. It was such a strong school. I mean, such a sturdy built school, I thought.
When you don't have no freeloading, I gotta get there, kids. Well, that's nobody's business. Well, it's you.
Clifford Granger, and 99 years old, and lived in the town all my life, within a mile of this place.
Yep.
3 different places, all within a mile of here. And then for the 7th and 8th was Mary D. Well, the 7th was in the town hall.
Mhm.
Mary D. Stone was being built at that time. So I was one of the first students to go into Mary D. Stone in the 8th grade. And Weaver was the teacher for the 8th grade. Miss Bowlby was the 7th grade. The rest of the teachers I don't remember. Nice. It was a treat to go to the new school, that's for sure. Because everything was sparkling brand new and you couldn't ask for anything better. And I'm sure it was a modern, up-to-date school.
There'll be days like this. People understand what I mean. There'll be days like this when you ring out the changes. About everything. Well, my mama told me there'll be days like this. Na, 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 dum, da, da. Na, 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 dum, da, da.
It was a nice school, we enjoyed it to no end, and we were big shots because it was a new school.
Sure.
On behalf of the JB Mary D. Closure team, we invite the community to purchase various keepsakes of these 2 schools, including t-shirts, note cards, magnets, or even a copy of this tribute video. I thank the elementary PTOs for overseeing this effort, with any monies raised directly benefiting students of the Auburn Public Schools. Order forms are available at the superintendent's office as well as at Mary D. and JB. Open house events are planned at both JB and Mary D. on Sunday, April 26th from 2 to 4 p.m., and the Auburn community is welcome and invited to attend. Special thanks are extended to Mr. Jason Bergman and his TV production students at Auburn High School, as well as Bay Path Regional Vocational Technical High School for their assistance. Finally, I offer sincere thanks to the JB Mary D. Closure team, including members Mr. Ron Prouty, Mr. Ken Ethier, Mrs. Beth Johnson, Mr. Rocco Morano, Dr. Kathleen Lozay, Mr. Joe Fahey, Mrs. Beth Chase, Mrs. Susan Lopez, and Dr. Mary Ellen Brunel. Thank you for your continued support. It should end with of the Auburn Public Schools, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lieutenant Morse will be making his presentation to the bylaw committee before we discuss the bylaws on Article 9. All right. Article 2, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $144,519.81 from free cash for fiscal year 2001 circuit breaker reimbursements for the Auburn School Department. These funds are related to school district funding to be utilized for extraordinary special education costs, including tuition for pertinent students, or act on anything relative thereto. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? I have a second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of article signify by raising their hands. All those opposed, it is voted. Article 3, to see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds to support the Auburn Public Schools' participation in the MSBA's Accelerated Repair Program to replace the roofs at 10 Swanson Road, current Auburn Middle School, and the Bryn Mawr School, as well as a boiler replacement at 10 Swanson Road. Article 3 of the May 5 2001 annual town meeting as follows. Delete the balance of $95,300, account number 3020112-581242 for Packagug, and then transfer $95,300 for the replacement of the roof and boiler at Auburn Middle School and a roof replacement at Bryn Mawr School as part of the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program, or act on anything relative thereto. Mr. Kosky?
Moderating, all costs, first of all, I'd like to thank great job was done on working for 15 years and it was a job that was done. Article 3, I move that the town meeting vote to amend CPI funds to support the Auburn Public Schools participation in the MSBA accredited repair program. Replace the roof at 10 Swanson Road, currently the Auburn Middle School, and the Bryn Mawr School, as well as a boiler replacement at 10 Swanson Road, to amend Article 3 of the May 5th, 2011 annual town meeting as follows. Release the balance of $95,300, account number 3, Capital, and then transfer $95,300 for the replacement of the roof and boiler at Auburn Middle School and the roof replacement at Bryn Mawr School as part of the MSBA accelerated repair.
Thank you. Is there a second? There is a second. I guess Paul, Debbie, I guess. Paul. Okay, this is going to be a two, first of all, are there any questions? Seeing none, this is a 2/3 vote. So I'm gonna ask first, is anybody opposed to this article signify by raising your hand? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hands. It is a unanimous vote. Thank you. Article 4, to see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds to support the Auburn Public Schools participation in the MSBA's Accelerated Repair Program to replace the roofs at 10 Swanson Road, current Auburn Middle School, and the Bryn Mawr School, as well as the boiler replacement at 10 Swanson Road. Article 3 of the May 7, 2013 annual town meeting as follows. Reduce the balance of $100,000 account number 3020114-581437 for Packagug, and then transfer $100,000 for for the replacement of the roof and boiler at Auburn Middle School and a roof replacement at Bryn Mawr School as part of the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program or act on anything relative thereto. Mr. Bynum.
Moderator William Byron, Precinct 2. I move that the town meeting vote to administer IT funds to support the Auburn Public Schools participation in the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program to replace the roof at 10 Swanson Road for Auburn Middle School and the Bryn Mawr School, as well as the boiler replacement at 10 Swanson Road, to amend Article 3 of the May 7th, 2013 annual town meeting as follows. Reduce the balance of $100,000, account number 302014-581437 for package shop, and then transfer $100,000 for the replacement of the roof and boiler at Auburn Middle School and a roof replacement at Bryn Mawr School as part of the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program.
Do I have a second? I have a second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this again is a 2/3 vote, so I'll ask, are there any who are opposed to this? Please signify by raising your hand. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by raising your hands. It is voted unanimously. Okay, we now skip to Article 9. To see if the town meeting will vote to adopt the general bylaws of the town of Auburn, Massachusetts, dated March 3rd, 2015, as amended by town meeting, if at all, which shall become effective upon approval of said bylaws pursuant to law. A copy of said bylaws have been presented to town meeting members concurrent with their receipt of this warrant and made public in accordance with MGL Chapter 40, number 32. This article shall not reply to the town of Auburn zoning bylaw or act on anything relative thereto. Ms. Holton.
Kim Holstrom, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to adopt the general bylaws of the town of Auburn, Massachusetts, dated March 3rd, 2015, as amended by town meeting, if at all, which shall become effective upon approval of said bylaws pursuant to law. A copy of said bylaws have been presented to town meeting members concurrent with their receipt of this warrant and made public in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 32. This article shall not apply to the town of Auburn zoning bylaw.
Is there a second? There is a second. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Brent Anderson, Precinct 5. Mr. Moderator, I raised the motion that we postpone Article 9 indefinitely, and I do so for several reasons. In the last 2 weeks, I've been going through the 160 pages that we were provided with as town meeting members, and I've been in search of some sort of comparative document to see side by side what the current bylaws are versus what we're voting on, what we're changing, and why. And I understand that because this is a very large change, it's been referred to as a complete omnibus reorganization and rewrite of the general administrative bylaws, and it hasn't happened in years, if not decades. I would ask that this be pushed off until our May 5th annual town meeting, so that those of us interested can go through, get a strong comparison, know what we're voting on, why we're voting on it, and have a really good idea of what we're doing. I can't say that I don't support this. I think this is probably an excellent document. I know people have put a lot of work into it. From a document that I was provided with today, it looks like this has been going on since 2011, so for 3.5 or 4 years, a committee of people have been doing this. I can't, as a town meeting member representing thousands of residents and every business in town, vote tonight on the document without having some sort of comparison. I understand a lot of it's grammatical. I don't care if there's a comma missing. if a paragraph's been changed, if things have been moved around. But things of substance, I feel like we need more information on and time to look at and consider. So therefore, and for our conversation, just for the town meeting members, I spoke to the moderator this afternoon and asked what would be the most effective way of doing this to bring this back to this body on May 5th, giving us only 6 more weeks. I mean, if this hasn't been done in decades, and we're looking to make changes that are going to impact our town for decades, I can't imagine why waiting 6 weeks would be a crisis. Apparently, the only way to do this, according to the rules of town meeting, is to postpone indefinitely, and that's not meant to kill this at all. The motion would be to postpone this indefinitely, and then I would respectfully request that the Board of Selectmen resubmit this to us in a warrant for our May 5th town meeting.
Good evening. This committee, the bylaw review committee, has been appointed and working on this project for 3.5 years. We've held 18 public meetings, 2 public hearings, actually in this room. I understand that the bylaw change is very voluminous. It's been presented to town meeting members in a packet for several weeks. The information's been out there for a long time. We have a quorum tonight, and everyone's ready to work. The bylaw review committee's a quorum. We're an open meeting, and we're ready to work. I would ask you to defeat that motion. I appreciate his kind words. I understand that it's not an attempt to kill this, but it may have that effect. We are here to work, and I would respectfully request that we do that tonight. Thank you.
Hello, Jeff McElroy, Precinct 4. I agree with Brent that, for one thing, that with respect, I understand that you've been working on this for a while, you've had these meetings and so on that I have not attended, and it's not, I didn't know about them. Even if I did, I may not have attended them anyway. It's not a reflection of me, it's just, I would have expected to get this so that I could read it and go through it. I received it in the mail, I suppose, a couple weeks ago. I've been very busy, the chance to read it all, but I'd love to have that opportunity.
Brent talked to myself and to Bob Kennedy to see how this could be done. We told him that according to the motion we made. However, there's a small problem. Evidently, because what he's asking, he's requesting that the Board of Selectmen please put the bylaws on the annual town meeting warrant. Unfortunately, the annual town meeting warrant has already been opened and closed. So I don't see how we can do that. Yes, the Board of Selectmen would have to.
Greg Bowling, Precinct 4. I did watch the public hearings. I did receive a letter in the mail prior to that public hearing that indicated that the bylaw packet was being discussed. While I didn't attend it, I did watch it on TV, and I did access the proposed bylaws on the town website at the time. So I find it a little bit hard to believe that 2 weeks ago was the first time anybody saw this. It's been a process that's been in the works for a long time. It's been, obviously, the bylaw review committee has been meeting regularly It's been discussed, it's been on my radar that there would be a special town meeting at some point to approve these bylaws. I think at one point they were talking a year ago, but, so I'm a little bit taken aback that somebody would be surprised that this is on the agenda for today. And I guess my opinion is we should just move forward with it. Obviously subject to if everyone else feels that they are uncomfortable with what's in the packet and they haven't had a chance to look at it, we certainly can vote on the motion. But I guess my position is that I'm ready to take a vote on this. And okay.
Charles Olson, Precinct 2. This is actually more of a maybe procedural thing, but these are the bylaws. When we did the wetlands bylaw, we also had regulations. There will be regulations that are associated with these bylaws for each of the laws. So how does that work with this process to replace the current bylaws? Oh. Can everyone hear me back there? So, regulation. Will there be a process for adopting regulations based on these bylaws, as we did with the wetland bylaws? The wetland bylaws is kind of a framework, and then the regulations come later with a public hearing. Will there be regulations associated with these bylaws, with the town bylaws, in addition at a later time, or is everything defined in the law? There are no regulations in addition. Okay. Complete. It's not going to be a later time to say, oh yeah, by the way, this so and so.
Ms. Azia?
Ellie, good Precinct 5. I hate to admit this, but I've been a town member since 1978, continuously. Years ago, quite a few years ago, we were as town meeting members getting a copy of the town bylaws. Someplace in the past, people have also asked whenever there was a bylaw change on the warrant that you supply not only the change, but the original, so that we can see what the changes were. I don't think what Mr. Davidson is asking for is outrageous because we have been doing that in the past. To propose it tonight is probably maybe not the best time to ask for that, but it is things that we have done as a town meeting in the past. We have not had town meeting members who took copies of the bylaws for years and years and years. We probably dig out one old copy, but we don't get those things anymore. Granted, things are online and we could go look them up or whatever, but, you know, it's kind of nice to lay two documents side by side and say, oh, this is what it was, this is what it's going to be, or all in one document when you see the change. Just for information, that's all. I'm not saying one way or the other people should vote on this. I'm just proposing, I'm giving you information that I've learned through my history of being a town member. Thank you.
Ms. Jacobson?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, town meeting members. First of all, before I start, I just want to thank you all for coming tonight. I know it's hard to make it out again. You know, we have another annual town meeting coming up in May, so we do want to thank you. I want to thank the committee for all their hard work. They've just done a yeoman's job on this, and all the boards and commissions who've weighed in on this. Just to help clarify some of the issues, I just wanted to run through some things. I did receive an email today from Mr. Anderson, and I felt that I should share with you the information that I shared with him with regard to the process. First of all, we did start this process in August of 2011 when the committee was appointed. The Board of Selectmen, the following, I believe it was February of 2012, actually gave me as one of my goals for that year to start on this process. And since that time, we have moved full force ahead. I have provided several updates to the Board of Selectmen in February of 13, 14, then again this year in 15. There have been Board of Selectmen memos on the timeline, the process, and the upcoming public hearing dates, as well as the meeting dates. The first memo that was fully comprehensive was given on 12/24/14. A month later, a half a month later, on January 12th this year, we gave a second memo just describing the process for everybody. The town clerk, since August 11, has posted 21 public meetings on this. 3 of them were canceled, believe it or not, or 3 due to snow. Hard to believe, I'm sure. And 18 were actually held. In addition, the bylaw committee and the finance committee and the Board of Selectmen held a joint committee meeting to discuss the bylaws, which was televised on February 26th of this year. On top of the standardized clerk postings for this, we wanted to ensure that everybody had an opportunity to read about these. The draft bylaws that were dated from December were posted on January 6th. The draft bylaws that were then revised in February were posted the next day. The draft bylaws that were then revised and again did very slight revisions from December to March, primarily grammatical issues. That was posted again on the website in March. We have posted all of our meetings as well as all of the public hearings on the town's website. We put them on Auburn Community Television, social media, Facebook, Twitter. Code Red. There was one message that most of you did get. I made a Code Red call on January 30th, the day after the first public hearing. When I realized that there were no town meeting members that were able to attend on January 29th, I sent out a Code Red message just to make sure the town meeting members knew there was another opportunity to come and speak to us. That, once again, the meeting on February 2nd had to be canceled due to the snowstorm, so we had it on February 3rd. There were 4 Code Red messages that went out saying that that meeting was postponed. For a total of 5 Code Red messages that specifically talked about this meeting. We also, in addition to all of this, continue to put notices up on our social media with links back to the reports. We also created a special email address that was specifically just for this process, so that if you wanted to make comments and you wanted to ask questions, you could either call our office, you could contact the board, the committee, that again, they've had 21 meetings, and you could also send written comments to the committee. All of this information was put out to the public. So I do feel we did put the information out there. The draft, in 99.9% of the draft that was put up on the website on January 6th has not changed. That has been there for now going on 3 months. And lastly, just a couple of notes. I understand the concern that everyone would like to see the current bylaws and the proposed draft bylaws. And I just want to explain, not to step on the chair's work here, but his comments, but I just want to reiterate what he said. The bylaw review committee initially started trying to redline the document. And the reason this was so difficult, these are the current bylaws, as Mrs. Easley mentioned. They are on our website. They're also available at the town clerk's office. They're in my office, and they've been at every public hearing that we've held on this meeting, on these bylaws. This document was 165 pages. There was no specific order to this. It wasn't categorized by department, by topic, or by function or use. It was purely put in here as the bylaws over the years were approved by town meeting and added to this document. So there was no rhyme or reason to how it was established or set up. There was a section, for instance, called licenses and permits, but all of the licenses and permits were not in that section. It was labeled as such, but as you read through 165 pages, we were finding licenses and permits that were elsewhere. So the bylaw review committee took probably a year and a half to go through the entire existing document, first and foremost, before any recommended changes were made, and they reorganized the entire thing by department, so that the departments and the functions would match up with the current charter and with the current structure of government. To give you an example, the Department of Public Works didn't exist until June of 2011. So any bylaw that was in here over a 40-year period referred to a highway surveyor, a sewer commission, or a executive secretary. So many things had changed. It all had to be redone first and foremost to get it into a format so you could easily find the police bylaws, the fire bylaws, the Department of Public Works bylaws, the administrative bylaws, the town clerk bylaws. They were literally all over the place in the existing ones. So by the time the initial reorganization was done by the bylaw review committee, none of it was page by page. We couldn't possibly go back and find what used to be on page 2 might now be on page 192. So the bylaw committee really struggled with this. They did a great job. Once they divided it by department, it was sent out to all of the departments, which then looked at it and went through grammatical changes to references in Mass General Law that have changed over a 20, 30, 40-year period, changes in our own charter that became effective in May of 2009. And each department had then, after they made the changes to make sure that we were in compliance with Mass General Law, they also had to go through and change any that either no longer made sense, were no longer used, were actually against Mass General Law, and at the same time propose new bylaws to be added to it. So as you can imagine, the redlining didn't work. The entire document, I would tell you, 95% of the document had a red line in it. Everything had been moved. If you've ever looked at a Word program, when you're redlining a document and you have multiple people doing it, it comes in different colors. So we probably had 13 different colors. Every single word in this had been redlined because every single section had been moved. So the town council did a great job and has been working to do his best to come up with a format where if someone were to say, what happened to bylaw number, Finance Committee, page 148, section 2, for the most part, he does have a chart that we could go back and reference so we know where it went. So he does have that chart, but for purposes of this, that won't help anyone here because you won't know what the original one was because they weren't necessarily labeled as such. So I guess the reason I wanted you to understand this entire process is even if we wait until what appears now to have to be the fall town meeting because we've already missed the warrant, unless of course the board wanted to reopen the warrant. I honestly don't know if there's time to do that because I don't know that we can get the warrant printed in time for the annual town meeting that we have to have on May 5th per our charter. But even if we were to be able to do that, we won't be able to provide to you a red line document for the reasons that I just explained. So if the postponement is to get that document, I want to make sure everyone understands we can't produce it. There is no way the committee can do that. They tried. And again, it just didn't work because of the volume of changes. That's why we've been so diligent in trying to make sure that everybody knew there were mega changes being made here. We were going to be doing this over a multiple year period. Please let us know if you had concerns, questions, comments, worries about where things went. We've been here to take those questions. We'll still take those questions. But I just want to make sure everyone's clear we can't provide the document that's being requested of us and what appears to be the basis for moving the item. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There's no question that since August 29th in 2011, there's been 18 meetings held about this. The first public hearing that was scheduled was for the 27th of January 2015, and that was changed due to snow. The second one was the 2nd of February, changed due to snow. I apologize that I missed a newspaper. I don't look at Auburn's Facebook page anticipating there's going to be notification to town meeting of a 165-page document that we should know about. I apologize for that. There's no question that meetings were held. There's no question that a lot of people have put a lot of work into this. And there's no question that this appears on the surface to be a well-written document. All I'm asking is that we don't rush into this tonight and approve this. It's sort of, I hate to be a cliche, but it reminds me of we need to vote on this to learn what's in it. I've never been presented with, on many boards I serve on, I've never, ever, ever been asked to vote for new laws, new bylaws, without a comparison of what we had before, at least a summary comparison. I understand that what was given prior, what we currently have is in 3 binders on the stage. So we can't go through, and I apologize, I did email the town manager this morning because it clicked with me when I was reviewing a contract today. You can hit on Microsoft Word the button for track changes, and it clicked, and rather than trying to go through 165 pages in 2 weeks, or actually I've only been doing it for a week, I said, oh, they must have this. It's not logical they wouldn't have this, and it turns out it doesn't exist. And I can appreciate why it doesn't exist, but the fact that a marked up copy doesn't exist doesn't change the fact that we can't see what is there compared to what we're voting on tonight, at least in summary fashion. And I also appreciate that we're going to have a presentation from the bylaw committee shortly about this. But with all due respect to the presentation, it's not going to raise any concerns that we as town meeting members might have. It's about why we should vote for it. So again, I ask that we move forward. All I can do is as we discussed with the moderator, the only option that we have tonight, or I was given as a reasonable option, was to postpone indefinitely, and I don't mean to kill it by that. That's why I said I respectfully request that the Board of Selectmen take this up and add it to our May 5th warrant. I mean, we were provided a change for 4 or 5 items of the warrant for a meeting next week, last week. So I can't see how something on May 5th is going to be a crisis. So I'll leave it at that. I'd appreciate your support in taking a little more time to vote on something that's going to affect all of us for decades. Thank you.
First, the bylaw review committee is here to answer any of your questions that you might have tonight. Second, we did try to track those changes. I know about the Microsoft Word tracking button, and we tried. And when we created the bylaws, we created a concept of breaking the bylaws into 2 sections. There's administration and departments and divisions. Basically, simply, that is administrative sections and operational sections. And then we took all of the components of the bylaw and placed them where they thought they should go within those 2 sections. And once that happened, tracking was over. It wasn't like we changed a word or we changed a sentence or a paragraph. We changed the entire document. And then from that framework, with those documents in there, it was a complete rewrite. We went to the department heads. We asked them for their input and for them to write their sections of bylaws that pertain to them. We asked public safety. We asked the fire chief, the police chief, Department of DPW. We asked Board of Health. We asked everybody to become involved in a collaborative effort to put these bylaws together. So a lot of the work that you'd see in that document is the work of the town department heads. And again, it's an absolute rewrite. I wish we could have tracked it. We tried in the beginning. We spoke with town council about it, and we all agreed that it was just untenable to do. We decided that it would be better to do more substantive work than to worry about where we came from. So all I can offer you is that there's copies of the current bylaws that we're operating under now. And we certainly distributed many iterations and versions of these proposed bylaws to everyone in an attempt to be transparent. So I'd like to see if we could get this done this evening. Thank you. Central Precinct 4. Mr. Moderator, keep it in mind that in the fall, we'll have some new people here. We could postpone this thing after that. So with that in mind, I just want to move the question right now.
Yes, motion to move the question has been seconded. All those in favor of moving the question signify by raising their hand. All those opposed? The question is moved. So now, on this amendment, I guess it's not really an amendment, I forget, on this motion. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising their hands. Well, I could if I walked over and got it. I mean, I could do it off the top of my head, but let's do it correctly. Do I have the motion? Did you give you the motion? John Anderson. Well, the motion as I have it is I move that we postpone Article 9 indefinitely, but listening to what Mr. Anderson said, with a request that the Board of Selectmen move the discussion and vote on this article to the annual town meeting on May 5th. Is that correct, Mr. Anderson? You have to put that, I think we have to put that, no, we have to put that in. I want to put that in with the request to the Board of Selectmen. Okay, is that clear and everybody got it clear? Back again. All those in favor of postponing indefinitely with a request to the Board of Selectmen that they have the discussion and vote on this at the May 5th annual town meeting. All those in favor of that signify by raising their hands. All those opposed? Motion does not carry. We are now back to the original motion. We're going to hear from Lieutenant Moss. Before we do, I think it would be well of us to show, it'd be appropriate at this point, to show our appreciation and thanks to this committee for all the work that it's done for us. Thank you, thank you. Okay, okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Most of what I had to say tonight has already been hashed over. But before I begin, I have to remark on the unexpected passing of Mr. Joseph Hamill. He was a bylaw review committee member as well as a town meeting member. He's been out with that committee since the very beginning. He enthusiastically attended every meeting and was instrumental in creating the initial computer model of the fees and fines schedule. Joe's energy and eternal optimism will be sorely missed. I would ask you all to join me in rising and observe a moment of silence for Joe Hamill. Thank you. Please allow me to introduce to you the members of the Bylaw Review Committee. Mr. Steve Anderson, Mr. Mark McPhillis, Mr. Paula Melican, Ms. Camilla Casilla, Mr. Ken Charlton, and myself as Chairman Mark Moss. I would like to thank each committee member for their community service and dedication to this project. As town meeting members, no one's more acutely aware of the deficiencies and shortcomings of our current bylaws. I'd like to take a minute to describe some of the transformation. We did seek the contributions of all the department heads. Once we had all those recommendations, we met often with Town Council, Mr. Robert Hennigan, to codify and review with the department heads the document you possess tonight. We met with the town moderator, Mr. Baker, who assisted us with grammar, sentence structure, and language consistency. That alone took several days. It was the Karma Committee. It was endless. The committee created a concept of so-called fee schedule and fine schedule. In this particular area, we've heard some concern, and for these reasons, the committee believes this approach is in the best interest of the town. Other than dog licensing, most of the fees and fines in the bylaws have remained unchanged for many, many years. We are a representative town meeting that does not generally allow non-meeting members to offer their opinion here. The Board of Selectmen can better manage the fees and fines and can invite and encourage input directly from Auburn residents. Town meeting can remain focused on the more substantive matters of creating and changing the law. Licensing, such as second-hand dealers, pawnbrokers, unregistered vehicles, etc., are now policies of the Board of Selectmen. They are the licensing authority for these public policy matters and should manage them. The committee at this time would like to recognize the following persons for their knowledge and expertise that they've contributed. I also list them for you because you should know how many people have worked on this collaborative effort. Town Manager, Department of Public Works Director, Chief Financial Officer, Town Clerk, Town Planner, Board of Selectmen Subcommittee, Police Chief, Fire Chief, Department of Development and Inspectional Services, Acting Director, Town Moderator, Finance Committee, Town Council, Information Technology, and all participating staff members of those departments. The Bylaw Committee has made a concerted effort to be transparent and solicit input and participation across the entire community of Auburn. And the committee would like to thank those residents, town meeting members, and officials who attended the public meetings, hearings, and offered their questions, suggestions, and concerns. These bylaws have been under construction for over 3 years. There have been numerous opportunities for residents and town meeting members to attend meetings, watch meetings, contact the committee, contact department heads, and gather information to express concerns through a multitude of options. The comments we've heard from individuals have been very positive and encouraging. The committee is very excited at the prospect of moving forward with the new bylaws for the town of Auburn. In closing, a significant amount of committee work was accomplished, and money has been spent with town council to get the bylaws to this level of completion. In consideration of potential additional costs and procedural delay, the Bylaw Review Committee asked the town meeting to vote to accept Articles 9 and 10. Thank you very much. I'll turn the floor back over to the moderator.
Good evening in Western Precinct 1. First of all, I would like to thank the Bylaw Committee and the committee for all their work. I know from experience of sitting on a board, Conservation Commission, where we took months to write a bylaw. I know how much effort it was, and I really appreciate your time. I have to say, I know we're done with the amendments of Mr. Anderson, but I will say, to me, it would have been helpful if we could have had a summary of what you did change, because I too tried to figure out what you changed. But I have 3 questions that I'd like to ask, and I don't know if it's appropriate to ask them collectively, but the first thing I'd like to ask you about is in, oh, that's not really me. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Anyways, on page 4, under section 2.011, relative to the warrant, the mailing out of the warrant at the annual town meeting, it says in here that all town meeting warrants will be mailed out 7 days in advance. And I do understand the state statute says it's 14 days for special town meetings, 7 days for the annual. However, I'm sure that my fellow town meeting members would agree that in the spring when we receive the annual town meeting warrant, it takes time to review that budget and to have some comprehension of what it's really about. And I, for one, think everyone would probably agree that it would be nice if we could have a little more time to do that. And I understand from watching a lot of meetings that it's difficult for everyone to be able to give us 14 days notice, which is what I was going to ask for. So as a means of compromise, I'm wondering if we could consider amending that article, that section rather, so that instead of 7 days for the annual, could we have 10? I'd like to see if that might be something that you could consider. Did the committee consider that when you were making the changes?
Thank you. I believe that those issues are addressed in the town charter. And the town charter supersedes the bylaws. And if that's actually the case, we really can't amend it in the bylaws to try to supersede the charter.
Well, I did speak with Chairman Hennigan prior to the meeting starting, and I asked him, given that the statute says 7 days, if he made it more stringent than the statute, he said that he believed it could be amended. So perhaps could we get to the Chairman Hennigan, Mr. Moderator? So that unless the charter was amended first, we could not change this, is that correct? Okay. That's all right, we all forgot. May I ask a second question, Mr. Moderator? On page 2, relative to the fee schedule, I know it's proposed under section 1.03, section 1, that the Board of Selectmen will now be responsible for changing or setting the fees, changing the fees. That's always been the responsibility of town meeting, and I'm interested in checks and balances. And I'd like to know if the town meeting body shares my feeling that the fee schedule should remain the responsibility of town meeting. And my third question is relative to the sections of the law relative to the Conservation Commission's Auburn Wetlands bylaw and the Planning Board subdivision regulations. Those two boards always set the fees under the regulations by law. Now, if I understand correctly, I just wanted you folks to confirm, there's a preceding paragraph that stipulates that unless it's provided for by law, the fees will be set by the selectmen. Can you just confirm for me that, in fact, the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board will still set their own fee?
I think that's set by statute, if I understand correctly.
I just want to be sure.
Okay. Mr. Hennigan's confirmed that is set by statute.
So then my only other question was relative to the fee schedule. I guess I'd like to know if other folks in the town meeting body share that feeling that the fee schedule should remain with the town meeting body.
Sure. We discussed the fines and fee schedules at length among the committee, and we felt that this was a nice way of modernizing the bylaws. They'll be changed on an annual or as-needed basis by the Board of Selectmen rather than the town meeting. Other than the dog bylaws, I've been a town meeting member for a long time and involved in municipal work for 31 years. And I can't remember when we actually amended a fee. And there's something that should be managed rather than just languish in bylaw. And tonight we're struggling with adopting law. And if we had to put the fees and fines into this, it would even make tonight more complex than it already is. So we thought that that was a very appropriate way to allow someone with a more, that meets more frequently to manage, and that the town meeting could meet on matters of law to change bylaws and things that came before it rather than fees. Also, again, as I stated before, citizens can't, that are non-town meeting members, can't walk in the door and state their opinion if a fee is too high and ask that it be lowered. It doesn't work that way here. But the Board of Selectmen could invite them to a meeting, and they could also invite the department heads to a meeting for their input on fees and fines annually. And we just felt that it was a much better fit, rather than the transfer of power or a transfer of authority. So I'll yield the floor to anyone else who has a comment.
I could just respond quickly. With all due respect, I think the moderator is very open to allowing non-town meeting members to speak here. I've been a town meeting member for more than 15 years, and there have been occasions when people other than town meeting members have to speak, and he has allowed that. So I don't think it's fair to do like that. And, you know, I guess my concern is I'm just looking for a way to keep balance. That's all. To me, the body here that we have should continue to be in charge of the fees. But if the body doesn't agree, then I guess maybe that's my concern. But I just think, I guess I'm just interested in checks and balances. I understand what you're saying, but you know, just because fees weren't proposed to be changed doesn't mean that somebody couldn't have proposed to be changed. You know, perhaps we should look at that, you know, as a matter of routine and adjusting the fees accordingly rather than taking the responsibility of changing the fees for those who have to change them.
I think we saw that as part of the overall dysfunction of our current bylaws. The fees and fines not being managed in there was actually part of that dysfunction. It was a good part. So that's why we thought we would change that process. But again, I'll yield the floor to anyone who has a comment on that.
That's Brian with Precinct 4. All my years on the, as chief, I don't ever remember coming here for any changes, any fees that I had proposed for the fire department. It was always the Board of Selectmen, they approve them, and they start collecting. As a town meeting member, I can't remember when we've gone totally through a schedule of fees. So I think this is a good fit. It's a good way to keep up with them. You don't have to wait a year. Things change. Police, fire, anybody, Board of Health, they can go to the selectmen and get the changes.
Paul Klosky, 18 days ago. There's only a couple of questions that I have. One of them was on the 500 cubic yard bill to find a special permit from the planning board. That was come on 12.1.6 first billing, and I'm on 3 exemptions, and I'm way down at section 567. Page 60 and 61. Because, yeah, it's silly. If you do more than 500 cubic yards, I know in the lawsuit, we were requiring before the lawsuit that they had special permits to fill something before they could do it. And I think that the courts do that, and I've asked the town planner to go and research that and see if they're back, and we haven't done yet. But Attorney Broder was before us about a month or so ago. He reminded us that we put it in as a condition, and he said you can't put it in here because they're still not doing the way they want to. That's one of my questions. And I think that has to be addressed.
That's the upshot, and you can finish for me. This bylaw was actually one of those obscure general bylaws that was placed in zoning. And we, as the committee, we brought this and a few other obscure ones forward and placed them in the bylaws. So we did it just to make it a comprehensive document, But, so I'm not sure I can actually answer that question for you, so I'll throw it over to town council, because maybe he can give you a more qualified answer. I don't know if our DPW director has any input, because it's earth filling.
Bill, do you want to go first?
I think our DPW director may have an answer for you.
Let's go ahead with DPW director, rather than Bob. I do agree with Mr. Murphy that the fact that the road project, that 500 feet has been considered incidental as part of the project and the final site plan, they didn't have to file a separate reading of that permit. I suspect that should be spelled out clearly in our general bylaw. Moving forward, that may change. I would prefer to agree that we should spell that out in our general bylaw. That it should previously that was clearly indicated in our
The way I interpret it was, as long as the earth fill and the earth removal was part of the project, that they didn't need a special. And as I say, that's why I've asked the town planner for researchers and try to come back with a definitive answer so that we can give it to you to make sure that we're operating within the confines of the law. And the other thing that was concerning me was the proposed bylaw 16.07 systems and dry height.
What page, please, Paul?
Way back on 129.
129. Page 129.
We've been working with the fire chief on that since May of 2013. And the planning board had a considerable number of concerns over it. And we gave him a list of things, and he addressed some of them. He addressed some of them, but not all of them. He was coming back to the planning board and with suggestions and with our concerns, and he circumvented the planning board and went directly to the bylaw committee. And so there were some of our concerns were not answered. In fact, we even sent a letter to the bylaw committee on 19th of February explaining what some of our concerns were and where they stood. And that was
The bylaw committee received that request or informational request from the planning board, and we deferred it to the department head, the fire chief. I'll defer this question to him now.
Chief Coleman, please.
Good evening. Steve Coleman, Fire Chief. Just to clarify, 3 years ago, when this bylaw process started, the cistern and dry hydrant bylaw was actually one of my original submissions 3 years ago. In conversations with the town planner at the time, I decided to withdraw the bylaw and put it before the planning board to try to include it in subdivision rules and regulations. As Mr. Kosky had mentioned, we've been working on this since May of 2013. The role of fire chief is to advocate and make best practice recommendations to boards, committees, town and meeting members that are consistent with Mass General Law, the Massachusetts Comprehensive Fire Safety Code, and other recognized standards. That is exactly what I am doing here this evening, and that's exactly what I've been doing since May of 2013. I am giving the town meeting members my professional recommendation on steps that should be taken to ensure that we have adequate water supply in a residential subdivision or other general industry development that is outside the municipal water district that is served by either Elm Hill or the Auburn Water District. In my mind, to consider building a new development or other property without fire protection measures in place, we are going backwards. What I am proposing this evening and have been advocating since May of 2013 to the Planning Board is that in those areas that are outside of municipal water, a developer would be required to install a minimum of a 20,000 gallon underground cistern in any housing development of 8 lots or more. A cistern is nothing more than an underground storage tank similar to that of a septic tank that would hold water for the sole purpose of fire protection within a neighborhood. The cistern tank measures approximately 15 feet by 20 feet and is usually placed in an easement off into the woods, where they had been placed within the circle of a cul-de-sac. The tanks are designed to be virtually maintenance-free with no moving parts. It is no more than a concrete tank with a series of PVC and steel piping used to fill and remove the water with a fire truck. I have extensive history with the use of cisterns and dry hydrants, and I can attest that there is little maintenance involved that can easily be considered maintenance-free for at least 30 years. Fires in new construction have changed considerably in the past 10 plus years. Lightweight truss construction, laminated I-beams, and the stretch energy code has changed the way that buildings burn. Adding the furnishings in today's homes that are largely made of plastics, and fires today burn much hotter and much faster than they have before. Fires double in size every 30 seconds, and these cisterns provide us the valuable water we need when it's not available from a traditional fire hydrant off of the public source. These cisterns are just another tool that we need to utilize in order to achieve outcomes. It is a tool no different than our trucks, protective clothing, or other equipment. A concern that was raised by the Planning Board early on in this process was that they did not want the town to do something that would be restrictive to developers who wanted to come and build here. As I explained to them back in 2013, out of the 25 cities and towns in Fire District 7, which includes southern Worcester County, which are the surrounding communities to Auburn, all but 2, Auburn being one of those 2, have a bylaw or other history that a dry hydrant or cistern would be installed upon recommendation of the fire chief. This fact means that regardless of where a builder would want to develop in the remaining 23 communities, they would be required to put in the fire protection within the development. In several meetings, the Planning Board had recommended to me that we use swimming pools in people's backyards as a source for fire protection. As I have stated to the Planning Board in 2 previous meetings, in my professional opinion, swimming pools are not a viable source of water for fire protection, and we should not be relying on a homeowner's swimming pool as the sole source of protection for a neighborhood. Our pumper trucks range in weight from 43,000 to 66,000 pounds, and by department policy, they do not leave the pavement. How do we get a pumper into someone's backyard to take water from a fenced-in swimming pool? Especially in New England with our winters, even if it was to be considered, it's a seasonal option at best. This past winter, we froze dirt under pavement to depths of 4 feet. The water in a swimming pool is not accessible in those conditions. Those are just some of the operational concerns that don't make it practical. We haven't even discussed the legal aspects such as trespass issues, damage, and other liability that would make the townspeople responsible. It was a thought, and I will never discourage questions, although it is not a viable option or a solution to this issue. In summary, my job is to advocate and make best practice recommendations to boards, committees, and town meeting members that are consistent with recognized standards. It is always the hope that the systems and tools put in place upon the recommendations of the fire chief will never be needed, as these are used in true emergencies. Retired Chief Roger Belhumer made similar best practice recommendations in 1998 during the construction of the woods and the lodge at Eddy Pond on Washington Street. The developer of that property did not want to spend the money to put a sprinkler system in the building, and through the recommendation of the fire chief and with support of the planning board, it was done. I can assure you that the large fire that struck the lodge 8 years later in 2006 would have had a much different outcome if there was not a sprinkler system in that building. The details in the investigation of that fire are well documented,
and that case is now part of a statewide program advocating for the installations of sprinkler systems in apartment buildings and elderly complexes of that size. The Fire Rescue Department, along with the Auburn Police, evacuated close to 100 people from that building with no loss of life, while the sprinklers held that fire in check in 2 rooms and the attic until it was completely extinguished by our department. If Chief Bellahumer had not advocated for the best practice recommendations that were needed to keep the residents and the firefighters safe in that building, he wouldn't have been doing his job. That is why I am before you this evening. I thank you for your time and consideration of this bylaw. I would just like to close that, as Mr. Kosky stated, I have been working with the planning board for the last 2 years on this. I have answered and addressed every question that the planning board had put before me. Every one of their concerns were addressed. The letter that Mr. Kosky spoke about, which I have here in my folder, addresses 2 concerns that the planning board gave to the bylaw committee. One was relative to maintenance, as I mentioned in my statement, and the town engineer and the DPW director can certainly attest. I'm very familiar with these systems. They are virtually maintenance-free. It's a concrete tank with a couple of pipes. There's no moving parts, there's no electricity. They were concerned with the maintenance. That's not an issue, it's been explained. The second was, in the letter, was the cost that would be passed on to the developer by the installation of these systems. I provided the planning board with some fees in terms of when I reached out to some developers, and I was given a cost of $2 to $3 per gallon. The planning board did their own research and came up with $1.80 a gallon. So if you use the high of $3 a gallon, which I provided for a 20,000 gallon cistern, it's $60,000 that would be passed on to the developer. If you use the $1.80 that the planning board did with their own research, it's $36,000. The question was posed to me at a planning board meeting one evening if I thought that it was appropriate that we pass $60,000 off to the developer. And my answer that night, and my answer tonight, is the same. I do. A developer that is coming into town that is proposing a multi-million-dollar development project, if they can't afford $60,000 to put fire protection within the development, then they probably shouldn't be building the development. If that same developer is building that project within 3,000 feet of a public water supply, they're required by planning board regulations to connect to the public system for the purpose of fire protection. So if they are even half the distance of the planning board regulation at 1,500 feet, that's $300,000 just to put pipe in the ground at $200 a foot, which is what the Auburn Water Department would charge to extend that project. So I guess it's lost on me that how you don't have a problem passing on $200 a foot at $150,000, but even at my high number at $3 a gallon, $60,000 is a challenge. Again, if the developer can't afford it, they shouldn't be building the project, and it's certainly a project I would not want to support anyway. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Roger. Roger, telling us, I'd like to answer some of the comments. First of all, water per cubic foot is 7.48 gallons per cubic foot. So a 20,000 gallon tank would require 2,673 cubic feet of water. A 10 by 8 by 36 foot tank would contain that water, not the heat. Water is 62.427 pounds per cubic foot. That's 166,917 pounds that this tank is going to weigh. So you put in a concrete cistern, you're going to have it reinforced footings with steel. You're going to have reinforced walls with steel. This tank is going to go into a piece of ground. A lot up on my street goes from anywhere from $100,000 to $140,000. If you're going to take one lot out of a subdivision to put this tank in, you're depriving the developer out of somewhere around $100,000 plus the cost of the tank. Okay, if you put in fiberglass tank, the cost of the tank itself runs $1 per gallon. They give you a 30-year guarantee. Right? Tank is 10 feet in diameter, 37 feet long. And once again, you have to put it in the ground with all your fruit, go with it, all the pipes, the tanks, and everything else. So we're not talking an insignificant amount of money. We're talking probably over $100,000.
Yes, Steve? You want to accept your motion to move the question on the bylaw? And is there a second? So we have a motion and a second to move the question on the bylaw. All those in favor of that signify by raising their hands. All those opposed? We are moving the bylaw along. So the bylaw is now up for a vote. All those in favor of the bylaw, please signify by raising their hands. All those opposed? The bylaw is passed. With our congratulations, as I said.
Mr. Moderator, I just want to thank the town meeting for their support. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you,
And
Steve.
I just want to say, I'm sure while reading these 159 pages, you will enthralled by the romance, the suspense, the tension, the passion. And in fact, it struck me as I was reading them, the subtitles would be 50 Shades of Excitement. There you go, Mark.
The committee'd like to thank the town meeting for your support and your vote this evening. Thank you very much.
Article 10. To see if the town meeting will vote to revoke the existing general bylaws of the town of Auburn, contingent upon approval by the Attorney General, in whole or in part of the revised general bylaws of the town of Auburn, Massachusetts, as set forth in Article 9 of this special town meeting. This article shall not apply to the town of Auburn zoning bylaw or act on anything relative thereto.
Yes, it's Ken Frost, Precinct
Yes,
4.
Mr. Crawford.
I move that the town meeting vote to revoke the existing general bylaws of the town of Auburn, contingent upon the approval of the Attorney General, in whole or in part, of the revised general bylaws of the town of Auburn, Massachusetts, as set forth in Article 9 of this special town meeting. This article shall not apply to the town of Auburn zoning bylaw.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Greg Bowling, Precinct 4. I would just like to remind town meeting that it is our responsibility to maintain the bylaws that we've just passed. So if there are individual items in here that people have questions or concerns, it's not written in stone. It can come back to town meeting with an amendment. We can make changes. I encourage the Board of Selectmen and the town departments to periodically review these bylaws so that we don't get 165 pages in 15 years to say, oh, we got to do it all over again. If page 72 needs a change because something has come up, let's get it on an annual warrant. Let's vote on it. Okay. So, please, be involved in this. This is our laws. This is what guides us. We should probably all understand this at every meeting. All the boards, all the departments should be reviewing these periodically so that we can kind of avoid some of the, I'll say drama that we've had so far today. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that the 15-year prediction is correct from your mouth to God's ear, that we'll all still be here, some of us. Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? All right. Therefore, all those in favor of Article 10 signify by raising their hands. All those opposed, Article 10 is voted. Okay. Article 11. To see if the town meeing will vote to amend the town of Auburn zoning bylaw by adding section 9.1.3 and section 9.1.4 to read as follows. 9.1.3. In addition to the members established by the town charter,
The Board of Appeals may include 2 associate members appointed by the Board of Selectmen, one or both of whom may be designated from time to time by the Chairman of the Board of Appeals to sit on the board in case of absence, inability to act, or conflict of interest on the part of any member thereof, or in the event of a vacancy on the board until said vacancy is filled. 9.1.4. The term of each associate member shall be determined by the Board of Selectmen. Yes, motion.
James Brown, Precinct 4, Article 11, I move that the town meeting vote to amend the town of Auburn zoning bylaws by adding section 9.1.3 and section 9.1.4 to be as follows. 9.1.3. In addition to the members established by the town of the charter, the Board of Appeals may include 3 associate members appointed by the Board of Selectmen, one for both, of whom may be designated from time to time by the Chairman of the Board of Appeals to sit on the board in case of absence, inability to act, or conflict of interest on the part of any member thereof, or in the event of any vacancy of a vacancy on the board before said vacancy is filled. 9.1.4. Term of each associate member shall be determined by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Okay. See, yes?
I'm Jeff McGalloway, Precinct 4. Can somebody explain exactly what the procedure is now for this circumstance?
Yes, okay.
Certainly, under the current bylaws, there is no provision for the board to appoint an associate member or an alternate member. So right now, the board can only appoint the 5 members. According to Mass General Law, in order for a board of selectmen to have the authority to appoint alternates to the ZBA, they need to have it actually written in their bylaw. So it became necessary to amend the bylaw. So basically, we're not taking anything out of the bylaw. This is a proposal to add a section to the bylaw, giving the board the authority to add, to appoint 2 associate members. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you. Any other? Seeing none. Oh, this is a 2/3, so I'll ask, are there any who are opposed? If they are, will they please signify by raising their hand? Seeing none, all those in favor of the, it is passed unanimously. Okay, so, Mr. Stencil, would you like to make a motion on what we've done all we can this evening, unfortunately, and we therefore have to have a meeting on April 1st, and that meeting is very important. Among other reasons, there's a point of $1.5 to $1.7 million that if we don't get it and get it in time, will go on your tax rate. So, Mr. Stencil.
Moderator, I move that we recess until Wednesday, April 1st, 7 p.m. here.
Is there a second? There is a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? So please look, it should not be a long meeting. Hey, I can't predict, but I mean seriously, the way we've been moving, and you'll be able to get out and have April Fool games or whatever afterwards.